For most people today, the name Sun Tzu immediately brings up a familiar image. They think of ancient battlefields, disciplined armies, and powerful generals standing over maps. They think of short quotes shared on social media, usually by entrepreneurs or influencers who claim the book changed their lives, even though many of them have never read it. Sun Tzu is often described as a philosopher of victory, a mystical thinker who somehow unlocked the psychology of conflict thousands of years ago. But this popular image is misleading. It focuses on style instead of substance. Because when you strip away the slogans, the myths, and the modern interpretations, you discover something far more uncomfortable and far more relevant. Sun Tzu was not obsessed with winning battles. He was obsessed with avoiding them. He was not interested in glory, honor, or domination. He was interested in cost. He lived in a world where warfare was destroying states, not because they were defeated, but because they could no longer afford to fight. Sun Tzu saw what others ignored, that war is not just violence, it is the most expensive decision a state can make. And when that cost is miscalculated, the enemy does not need to defeat you. You defeat yourself. To understand Sun Tzu, you must understand the world he lived in. His ideas did not appear in peace or comfort. They were born in chaos. China, during the late spring and autumn period and the early warring states era, roughly between the 6th and 5th centuries BCE, was a world collapsing under its own ambition. The land was divided into rival kingdoms, each believing it was destined to rule all others. There was no stable balance of power. Alliances were temporary. Trust was rare. War was constant. Every state believed that if it did not expand, it would be destroyed. Over time, warfare changed. What had once been limited conflicts between aristocrats turned into massive national struggles. Armies grew larger. Infantry replaced chariots. Wars now required metal, food, roads, weapons, storage, taxation, and administration on a scale never seen before. States were no longer just fighting enemies. They were testing the limits of their own economies. Every campaign drained treasuries, disrupted agriculture, and weakened social stability. Many kingdoms collapsed without losing a decisive battle. They simply ran out of resources. Modern audiences often imagine ancient war as heroic and dramatic, but during Sun Tzu's time, war was mainly a logistical nightmare. The moment an army began to move, costs exploded. Soldiers needed food every day. Horses required grain. Weapons broke and had to be repaired. Wagons needed drivers. Roads had to be protected. Blacksmiths, cooks, armorers, porters, and administrators all had to be fed or paid. A short campaign could bankrupt a small state. A long campaign could destroy a large one. Agriculture collapsed when farmers were taken into armies, trade slowed, tax revenue dropped. Yet kings continued fighting because fear trapped them. If they stopped, a rival might strike. This created an early arms race. Every state overspent because every state feared falling behind. Sun Tzu saw that this cycle was suicidal. War was no longer a test of courage. It was an economic gamble with terrible odds. In the West, Sun Tzu is often presented as a philosopher sitting in quiet reflection. In reality, he was closer to a financial realist. He looked at war the way an accountant looks at a failing company. He studied numbers, logistics, time, labor, and resources. And he reached a conclusion most rulers could not accept. Victory means nothing if the state collapses afterward. Many kings believed the enemy's army was the greatest danger they faced. Sun Tzu believed the greatest danger was their own spending. This belief shaped everything he wrote. That is why The Art of War begins with a warning, not a promise. He says war is of vital importance to the state, not honorable, not glorious. Vital meaning dangerous and potentially fatal. From the first page, Sun Tzu makes it clear that war must be handled carefully, limited tightly, and ended quickly. Otherwise, it will destroy the very thing it claims to protect. Many of Sun Tzu's most famous ideas sound poetic, but they are actually economic principles. When he says the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting, he is not being mystical. He is describing cost avoidance. Achieving your goal without spending resources you cannot replace. When he warns that no nation has ever benefited from prolonged warfare, he is stating a financial fact. The longer a war continues, the more it damages the economy that supports it. Speed matters because speed lowers cost. Intelligence matters because information is cheaper than force. Deception matters because confusion is less expensive than destruction. Sun Tzu understood that war is not about strength alone, it is about efficiency. Waste is the true enemy. One of the most surprising things about the art of war is how little time it spends glorifying battle. Instead, Sun Tzu focuses on logistics. He explains that distance multiplies cost. He warns that transporting supplies drains the treasury faster than paying soldiers. He points out that prolonged campaigns destroy agriculture and weaken society. He criticizes generals who chase small victories while bankrupting their states. He urges rulers to use enemy resources whenever possible, not as a clever tactic, but as a financial necessity. To Sun Tzu, logistics are not a support system. They are the strategy itself. If your supply system fails, your army becomes irrelevant. Sun Tzu's emphasis on intelligence reveals how modern his thinking was. He believed that a single spy could save more money than an entire army. One accurate report could prevent a disastrous campaign. When he speaks of foreknowledge, he is talking about information, data, insight to Sun Tzu. Ignorance was expensive. Acting without information meant wasting resources. He understood that bad information leads to bad decisions, and bad decisions lead to financial collapse. Today, intelligence agencies, surveillance systems, and data-driven strategy follow the same logic. Sun Tzu saw it centuries earlier. When Sun Tzu says, "Speed is the essence of war," many people misunderstand him. They think he is encouraging aggression. In reality, he is talking about economics. Speed reduces exposure. Every extra day an army remains in the field increases cost. Food is consumed, morale drops, supplies run low, risks multiply. A fast victory preserves resources. A slow victory destroys them. Sun Tzu favored maneuver over attrition, deception over destruction, and timing over brute force. These choices were not philosophical preferences. They were financial discipline. History proved Sun Tzu right. States that treated war as a financial instrument survived longer. States that treated war as a test of honor burned out. Some kingdoms wasted their wealth on long sieges and endless campaigns. Others used intelligence, alliances, and rapid strikes to avoid prolonged conflict. The difference was not bravery, it was discipline. Sun Tzu did not promise invincibility. He offered sustainability. And in history, sustainability decides survival. Sun Tzu's warnings echo through modern history: the Soviet Union in Afghanistan, the United States in Vietnam, European empires in World War I. These wars were not lost because armies lacked courage. They were lost because the economic systems behind them collapsed. Sun Tzu would have recognized the pattern instantly. Today's tools, cyber warfare, sanctions, proxy wars, intelligence operations, are modern versions of his ideas. They aim to achieve influence without paying the full cost of direct war. Whether nations admit it or not, they still live inside Sun Tzu's logic. The greatest misunderstanding about Sun Tzu is thinking that he taught people how to win wars. He did not. He taught rulers how to avoid national bankruptcy. His true genius was understanding that the cost of conflict lasts longer than the conflict itself. States do not fail because they lose battles. They fail because they exhaust the resources that keep society stable. Sun Tzu believed the best victory is the one that does not require rebuilding your economy afterward. The Art of War is not a book about aggression. It is a book about restraint, not about dominance, but survival. Sun Tzu was not a warrior philosopher. He was a steward of the state. His message remains brutally relevant. Strength is not measured by how hard you strike, but by how much you can afford to strike. History does not repeat itself, but if you ignore it, it will still send you the bill.